On February 13, 1542, in the Tower of London, a young woman of merely 19 walks slowly down the cold stone corridor, her destination the scaffold. Trembling hands clutch a small prayer book as guards escort her. Catherine Howard, the fifth wife of Henry VIII, is about to face the executioner's axe. The night before, she had asked for the execution block to be brought to her cell, spending hours practicing how to position her head, a disturbing gesture revealing her desperation. How could a young woman, who had been Queen of England just 18 months earlier, end like this? What led her from palace to scaffold in such a short time? To understand Catherine Howard's downfall, we must return to 1540. Henry VIII, at 49 years old, had just annulled his marriage to Anne of Cleves, his fourth wife. Overweight, with a suppurating leg ulcer, and embittered by his matrimonial failures, the king seemed unlikely to marry again. But then he met Catherine, a lady-in-waiting to his former wife and niece of the powerful Duke of Norfolk. Catherine Howard had neither royal blood nor refined education. She grew up without her mother, who died when Catherine was small, and was sent to live in the household of her grandmother, the Dowager Duchess of Norfolk. There, supervision was practically non-existent. In the Duchess's chaotic mansion, where dozens of young nobles received basic education, the girls slept in a communal dormitory known as the Maiden's Chamber.it. Was in this environment that Catherine, at just 13, had her first romantic encounter with her music teacher, Henry Mannix. The two exchanged caresses, but never consummated the relationship. Catherine would later confess that Mannix touched her in intimate places, but she was too young to understand the danger she was in. At 15, Catherine began a more serious relationship with Francis Derham, her grandmother's secretary. Witnesses reported that the two called each other husband and wife, and often met in the dormitory after curfew when the Duchess was already asleep. These youthful secrets seemed buried when Catherine arrived at the royal court in 1539. Beautiful, vivacious, and exuberant, she immediately captured the old king's attention. Henry, enchanted by her youth and gaiety, called her his rose without a thorn and jewel of womanhood. The marriage was celebrated on July 28, 1540, just 19 days after the annulment of his marriage to Anne of Cleves. The king, rejuvenated by love, showered Catherine with luxurious gifts. Jewels, dresses, property as nothing was too much for his young queen. During the first months, Catherine seemed happy in her role. She organized festivities, danced for the king, and managed her royal household with youthful energy. But behind the smile lurked a dangerous secret. Henry, despite his passion, was an old and sick man. His ulcerated leg emitted a repulsive odor, and he needed to be carried in a special chair. For Catherine, intimate life with the king was, at minimum, unpleasant. The contrast between her elderly, repulsive husband and the gallant young men at court could not have been greater. Temptation came in the form of Thomas Culpeper, a handsome courtier and gentleman of the king's privy chamber. The two began exchanging glances, then notes, and finally secret meetings. Jane Rochford, Catherine's lady-in-waiting and sister-in-law of the executed Anne Boleyn, facilitated these dangerous encounters. The same woman who had testified against Anne Boleyn years before now placed another queen in mortal danger. Meanwhile, rumors about Catherine's past began to circulate. Francis Derham, her former lover, appeared at court demanding a position in her royal household. Catherine, terrified at the possibility of her past being revealed, made a fatal mistake. She gave Derham the position of secretary, hoping to silence him. This decision only served to bring danger closer. In the summer of 1541, while the king and queen were traveling through northern England, the meetings between Catherine and Culpeper intensified. Jane Rochford arranged empty rooms in the mansions where the court stayed, allowing the queen and her lover to spend hours together while the king slept. The fall came in November 1541. John Lascelles, a Protestant reformer with connections to the Duchess of Norfolk's household, decided to reveal Catherine's past to Archbishop Cranmer, a close advisor to the king. Cranmer, hesitant to give such news to the volatile monarch, left a letter detailing the accusations on the royal bench in the chapel. When Henry read the letter, his initial reaction was disbelief. He ordered a discreet investigation, hoping the accusations were false. But evidence quickly accumulated. Former servants of the Duchess confirmed Catherine's relationships with Manox and Derham. Worse still, the investigation uncovered her current affair with Culpeper. A letter written by Catherine to Culpeper was discovered, ending with the fatal words, "My heart and body are at your disposal, and I wish I were in your arms, for it would be a relief to my heart." This written proof of her infidelity sealed her fate. Henry, upon discovering the betrayal by the woman he considered pure and innocent, was devastated. Witnesses report that he wept openly before his council, demanding a sword to kill the queen with his own hands. Then, in a fit of rage, he left Hampton Court in the middle of the night, refusing to see Catherine again. Catherine, confined to her chambers, initially did not know why she had fallen from grace. When informed of the accusations, she tried to run through the palace corridors to beg the king for forgiveness. Desperately shouting his name, the guards stopped her and took her back to her chambers, which were now her prison. On November 7, 1541, Catherine was stripped of her title as queen and transferred to Sion Abbey. There, during interrogations, she confessed her premarital relationship with Derham, but vehemently denied having committed adultery with Culpeper. Her denials were not enough. Derham and Culpeper were arrested and tortured. Under torture, Culpeper admitted to desiring carnal knowledge of the queen, although he never explicitly confessed that they had consummated the relationship. The two men were executed in December. Culpeper, being noble, had the privilege of beheading, while Derham suffered the full punishment for treason, hanged, disemboweled, and quartered while still conscious. In January 1542, Parliament passed an Act of Attainder against Catherine, condemning her for treason without a formal trial. The law declared that it was treason for a queen not to reveal her sexual past to the king before marriage, and also that a queen could commit treason simply by the intention of adultery. Catherine, now barely 19, remained detained in the Tower of London for days, awaiting the king's final decision. Henry, still deeply hurt, signed the death warrant. In the days leading up to her execution, Catherine reportedly practiced repeatedly how to place her head on the block, a desperate attempt to die with dignity. On February 13, 1542, the scaffold was prepared in the same area where Anne Boleyn, her cousin, met her end 6 years earlier. Unlike Anne, who died with dignity and eloquence, Catherine Howard was almost delirious with terror. Witnesses report that she had to be practically carried to the scaffold, her legs giving way under the weight of fear. Her last words were simple: "I die a queen, but I would rather die the wife of Culpeper." She then asked the executioner to hurry. A single blow of the axe separated her head from her body. Henry's rose without a thorn, beheaded before reaching 20 years of age. Catherine's body was buried without ceremony in the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula inside the Tower of London, near the remains of her cousin, Anne Boleyn. Henry forbade official mourning, and all portraits and symbols of Catherine were removed from the royal palaces. What is Catherine Howard's legacy? Often relegated to a footnote in history, the foolish, unfaithful wife who deserved her fate, a deeper analysis reveals a complex tragedy. A teenager without proper guidance, married to a man 33 years her senior, sick and temperamental, surrounded by courtiers who saw in her only a means to advance their own ambitions. The case of Catherine Howard prompted changes in English laws on treason. The new definition, which considered it treason for a queen not to disclose previous relationships, remained in the law books for more than a century. Henry never fully recovered from this betrayal, although he married a sixth time to Catherine Parr. He became even more bitter and tyrannical in the last years of his reign. Catherine's grave remained unmarked for centuries until Queen Victoria ordered memorial plaques to be placed to mark the burial sites of royal victims inside the tower. Today, a simple plaque marks the approximate place where her young body was laid. The story of Catherine Howard is a somber reminder of the fate of women in the hands of powerful men, of the danger of youth without guidance, and of the relentless nature of royal power in Tudor England. She entered history as the queen who lost her head for love, but perhaps she might better be remembered as a victim of the politics and morality of her time. A teenager who, for a brief moment, wore a crown, only to end under the executioner's axe.